Doc, I'm starting to sense your feelings about nukes are a little different from your colleagues.
How do you mean?
Your little chat with Coldman back there.
I told you my father worked on the Manhattan Project, right? You're familiar with it?
The basics, yeah. It was the project that kicked off the nuclear age.
That's right. Some of the finest minds of the 20th century, including multiple Nobel Prize winners, worked on it. They spent over $2 billion, and that's in 1940s money. It culminated in the successful nuclear test at Alamogordo on July 16, 1945.
And the first use in combat a few weeks later. Doc?
I can't walk.
What?
My spine isn't shaped like everybody else's. I can't move my lower body, so I've never taken a single step, not since I was born.
What's that got to do with your dad being in the Manhattan Project?
As a result of his research, my father was exposed to high doses of radiation. It can't be a coincidence that my chromosomes are messed up. That's why I didn't want for these nukes to be another sword of Damocles. I wanted to give them a real purpose, to be a deterrent against war.
Doc.
And Coldman, we have to stop him, whatever it takes. August 6th, 1945, Hiroshima. August 9, Nagasaki.
The atom bomb attacks on Japan.
My father was married to his work. I don't have a single memory of going places or doing stuff with him on weekends. But even as a kid, I knew on some level that it was for his family. I respected him. My mother used to tell me all the time, "Your father is a brilliant scientist. He saved countless American boys from death. You should be proud of him."
Yeah. You could say the war ended because of those bombs.
When I was in the 5th grade, a Japanese student transferred to our class. She showed me photos of Hiroshima after the bomb. I couldn't believe my eyes. A city of over 350,000 people reduced to a scorch mark on the ground by a single atomic bomb. Houses blown off their foundations, burned to ashes. The only things left standing were the skeletons of steel-framed buildings. And it wasn't just the buildings. Blackened corpses on the side of the road. Survivors covered head to toe in severe burns. Within a few months, over 70,000 had died in Nagasaki, twice that in Hiroshima. For years after that, I couldn't talk to my father. Couldn't even stand to look at his face.
I know how you feel, Doc. But your father's your father.
If he hadn't worked on that project, my body wouldn't be like this. I could be researching something else. I could have lived a normal life. It wasn't so long ago the world stood on the brink of nuclear war.
Just over on the other side of the Caribbean.
I was 17 at the time. I'd skipped a few grades and was a sophomore at MIT. I remember feeling kind of apathetic about the news that came in every day. It seemed clear to me that as long as they had a grasp of the concept of nuclear deterrence, there was nothing to fear.
Either that, or they were fanning that fear on purpose.
As a way to secure a bigger defense budget? Huh, I can see that. But if that was their plan, it kind of backfired.
Because it ushered in the era of détente between East and West.
Coldman's really gonna do it this time. Once the nuclear genie is out of the bottle, the yoke of deterrence is going to be meaningless. People will die. Cities will burn. We have to stop him now before it's too late to turn back.
So you've been doing nuclear research your whole life?
No, not really. At first I wanted to be an aerospace engineer. For me, the Sputnik launch was a good shock, not a bad one. I thought the age when science was used for war was over, and that a glorious age of space exploration was dawning. The year I skipped ahead and got into MIT, Gagarin went into orbit, which made me more excited than ever. Of course, even back then, I knew the space race was just another facet of the Cold War.
Moscow had a leg up on us, and we were desperate to catch up.
I know. But for me, it was a happy time. I joined NASA, got to do the kind of research I loved. Our nation's prestige hinged on our work. They gave us whatever resources we asked for. I knew you could turn a rocket into an ICBM by fitting it with a nuclear warhead, but that didn't bother me so much. It didn't last long, though. The space and nuclear arms races took up enormous sums of money. America beat Russia to the moon, but that's where it ended.
Then came détente.
Exactly. NASA's budget was slashed as a result. My father being a nuclear expert and all, they put me to work on a more obvious deterrent: missiles. At NASA, I'd been researching a locomotion system for lunar exploration. Tires aren't suited to driving around on the moon, you know. And that's how I caught Coldman's eye. But you know, there's something I've never been able to figure out. Is the Cold War really a war, or is it really peace?
Doc, what do you...
People called it a Cold War, but I disagreed. Sure, nuclear stockpiles are increasing, threats are multiplying. The US and the Soviet Union have enough power to destroy the human race 100 times over. But nobody's actually being killed. Small-scale conflicts and proxy wars, maybe, but nuclear deterrence has averted another world war. The world's far more peaceful today than it was before, and the breakthroughs we've made in space exploration thanks to Cold War competition? Fantastic, don't you think?
No. We didn't need to rush into space like that. Going into space may have been mankind's dream, but good people were sacrificed in the scramble.
Maybe so. NASA's definitely got some skeletons in its closet.
Same goes for the nuclear arms race. Atomic testing has killed civilians and exposed thousands to radiation.
Believe me, I know. And now, this. What peace was I trying to protect anyway? The more I think about it, the less I understand. Let's speak in hypotheticals for a minute. Say you wanted to make a clone of yourself.
A clone? Paramedic had the same idea. It's science fiction.
I'm just hypothesizing here. Okay, not a clone then. You have any kids?
Nope.
Wife?
I've never been tied down.
Okay then. So, we're still talking hypotheticals. Say you had a son who'd inherited your genes. Someone with the same combat abilities as you. Would you challenge him to a fight?
Not to sound cocky, but I would want to do that. No telling who'd survive.
I'll bet. You picked up on the Pupa 5000's combat patterns in seconds.
Only with your advice, Doc.
Well, if anybody could learn to do it just by listening, it'd be easy. But you're a born soldier. Yeah, you must have been born with genes geared for combat. Soldier genes, if you will.
Genes geared for combat? I don't care how advanced their research is. You can't blame genes for everything.
Blame genes? You think it's funny?
What?
You think genes have nothing to do with this body I was born with?
I don't know.
Look, that fear of facing someone of equal ability in combat, imagine that on a strategic scale. That's the concept of nuclear deterrence. The idea is, when all sides are armed with the destructive power of nuclear weapons, they'll avoid nuclear war in order to prevent mutual annihilation.
Doesn't sound all that sophisticated to me.
Exactly. It's so simple in principle. But because it's so simple, whether or not it works properly depends on the people involved. In that sense, what we're looking at now is a malfunction in deterrence theory.
Coldman.
You got it. Please, Snake, don't let deterrence die. Nuclear deterrence means preventing the use of nuclear weapons in conflicts between states. But what about other situations?
Like what?
Terrorism has been on the rise in recent years, from separatist movements to far-left extremists. What would happen if nuclear weapons fell into terrorists' hands? Without a state, that is, without territory of their own, the chances of having nukes used against them are slim. They have no reason to fear a nuclear strike. Conversely, they have no reason to hesitate to use nukes against their adversaries.
You've got a point. All the ICBMs and strategic bombers in the world amount to nothing against a terrorist group.
Right. Of course, this is all still hypothetical. Countries keep their nukes under tight watch. There's no immediate danger of terrorists getting their hands on them. But the day may come when the proposition of nuclear terrorism makes nuclear deterrence theory a dead letter.
Nuclear terrorism. Interesting.
What are we gonna do, Snake? If Peace Walker attacks Mother Base...
Relax. We've got the entire MSF out to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, but Peace Walker's missiles have 1 megaton warheads. The fireball alone would be 1 mile in diameter. Everything in the vicinity of Ground Zero will be vaporized by the heat rays. Then there's the blast, which travels at hundreds of miles per hour. And the fires, and the...
A huge dose of radiation from the initial nuclear reaction.
That too. There won't be a single survivor.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. Look, Doc, you made that thing. You know better than anybody what it's capable of. Right now, you've got to give me a rational, scientific estimate of the damage. If we're talking about a nuclear explosion, it's more than just MSF's problem.
You're right, Snake. Sorry about that. Like I was saying, Mother Base would be wiped out. Any ships in the area could be caught in the blast too. We'd need to send out a warning. The thing to worry about most is the fallout.
The dust of death.
If it goes off over water, the particles will be smaller than with an explosion over land, so the wind will scatter the fallout over a wider area. Clouds will form around the salt crystals in the seawater, causing contaminated rain to fall downwind.
Yeah, got a taste of that myself.
On Bikini Atoll? That's right. The 1954 Castle Bravo test created fallout 300 miles downwind. Poisoned a lot of local residents and ships, so I hear. The yield of Peace Walker's warheads isn't that big, but the amount of fallout will largely depend on weather conditions. It's impossible to make a quick and easy estimate.
If it gets into the trade winds, it could come straight to Costa Rica.
What was it Coldman was saying? About leaving people free to help out? He's out of his mind. What does he think's gonna happen? When they get hit by rain containing high concentrations of fallout, a lot of them will die from the external exposure alone. The rain will seep into the ground, contaminating the water supply and crops. When they ingest the stuff, the internal exposure starts. Strontium-90 and cesium-137 have half-lives of around 30 years. The effects stay with you your entire life. Leukemia, cataracts, dermatitis, cancer. And it affects reproduction, too.
I know.
Even today, 30 years after World War II, thousands of people still suffer from exposure to the bomb. We can't let Coldman create more of them just to prove his point. I know it sounds crazy, but I created Peace Walker so that that kind of thing would never happen again.
Don't worry, Doc. We'll stop it. One way or another. I gotta say, I'm surprised you helped us arm Metal Gear with nukes.
What of it?
Don't get me wrong, I'm grateful and all, but you sure about this? They may be for MSF self-defense, but they're still nukes. It's essentially the same thing as Peace Walker, which you despised.
See, that's exactly it.
What is?
You don't hide your motives. You tell the truth. That's what makes you different from those CIA bastards. They lay on the charm, win you over. And then, when things get hairy, they turn their backs on you.
I'm just telling it like it is.
Which is why I get the feeling that you wouldn't be stupid enough to use them. Okay, I'll come out and say it. I trust you.
You give me too much credit.
You think so? Besides, there's more uses for bipedal locomotion technology than weapons. We make it small enough, and it could have applications in robotics and prosthetic limbs. Maybe one day I'll even be able to walk.
Nice thought.
I want to stand on my own feet, be master of my own fate, and I'll use your strength to help me do it. If you don't mind, of course.
Nah, it's a fair enough deal.
Thanks. People can change, I know. But I trust you, Snake. I trust you to be the guy I know now. The aim of the Peace Walker project is to achieve robust nuclear deterrence across Central America by deploying a new nuclear weapon system along the Caribbean coast. Peace Walker is also the name of the system itself.
A nuclear weapon named Peace. I can just see the look on Kaz's face. So why exactly does this new system need legs in the first place?
Because it's a walker. An unmanned weapon moving under its own power and capable of launching a deterrent strike from anywhere. That's the whole idea behind Peace Walker. The reason Peace Walker is a mobile nuclear weapon system is to maximize its potential as a nuclear deterrent.
How so?
If need be, Peace Walker can stay constantly on the move so that the adversary can't pinpoint its position. That allows it to avoid preemptive enemy strikes.
So you're saying it keeps the retaliation card in play?
Coldman likes to brag about it in this way.
Like a land-based version of an SSBN.
And there's another reason for them to be mobile. Peace Walker also has a self-destruct function.
Why would Peace Walker need a self-destruct function?
You saw it, didn't you, Snake? That sphere on Peace Walker's head?
Yeah?
That's a hydrogen bomb.
What? You're telling me that thing's a thermonuclear device? Do they have any idea what kind of destruction that thing would cause?
I know, it's crazy. I mean, even overkill has its limits. If it's strategic value they want, they could have gone with something smaller. It's like they want a weapon on par with Russia's Tsar Bomba.
This arms race is running way out of control.
It's an evolutionary dead end. A saber-toothed tiger. You can't load a warhead that big on a missile, of course. And no strategic bomber could carry it. That's where Peace Walker comes in.
So, it waltzes into enemy territory carrying a hydrogen bomb and blows itself up. Christ.
The biggest nuclear warhead ever actually detonated was the Soviet RDS-220, nicknamed Tsar Bomba. It had an estimated yield of 57 megatons, 10 times as much power as all the explosives used throughout World War II. The test took place on October 30, 1961, above Novaya Zemlya. The explosion is believed to have created a fireball over 2 miles in diameter. Can you believe that? Like a miniature sun. The explosion was seen as far off as Finland, 600 miles away, and some people even reported windows shattering. The shock wave traveled 3 times around the Earth.
3 times?
Peace Walker is armed with a massive hydrogen bomb, even more destructive than Tsar Bomba. It can sneak into enemy territory, lie low, and in the event of an enemy nuclear strike, detonate itself in retaliation. And the locomotion system that lets it do that? My research. Snake, those legs were supposed to make my dream come true. Now they're about to jump the fence of nuclear deterrence. You have to stop them. I'll apply all my energy into developing weapons and equipment to help you do it.
Sounds like a deal. What made you put an AI into Peace Walker?
Well, for one thing, because it can't be manned. Peace Walker's designed to enter enemy territory and blow itself up, if necessary. You can't put a person inside a weapon that could blow at any time, can you? So we equipped it with an AI instead.
That's strangely humane of you.
And besides, Peace Walker was designed as a bipedal weapon system. You can't imagine how hard it shakes when it walks. It'd turn a man into mush. Plus, when launching a nuclear missile, it has to perform ballistic calculations in real time. See? Because it's always moving.
Hold on. If that's all it does, then a high-performance computer ought to do the job. It doesn't need intelligence.
That's a very good point, Snake. Which brings me to the real reason. Peace Walker needs AI to make decisions regarding nuclear retaliation. It's what ensures perfectly mutual assured destruction.
I've heard all this before. You want a war between machines?
We'd never actually launched the first nuke, of course. It's strictly a counterattack system. Only a politician could make such an illogical decision as starting a nuclear war. Conversely, if an adversary launches a nuke at us, the AI will not fail to retaliate. Therefore, the adversary can't launch. The AI guarantees it.
Even so, launching nukes without authorization?
Boomer captains have the authority to launch if land communications are cut off. It's the same principle.
Not even the captain of a boomer can make that decision alone. The way I heard it, that's the only situation where insubordination is allowed.
Only because humans are imperfect. That's Coldman's line of thinking.
You're saying that machines don't make mistakes? That's a myth. Worse than that, it's blind faith.
We wouldn't put our fate, into the hands of any ordinary machine. That's what the AI is for. The decision to launch a retaliatory strike requires high-level judgment. You have to take into account not only the state of the war, but the entire world. And sometimes, you need to make a guess based on incomplete information.
Huh. You think an AI can do all that?
Yeah. At least Dr. Strangelove does. Peace Walker is fitted with several close-range weapons. We'd also planned for it to be able to enter enemy territory and self-detonate.
Wonderful. What exactly are we dealing with here?
Well, the flamethrowers for one thing. One in the front and one in the rear. Then there are the S-mines. They're like cluster bombs. It scatters them from its leg hatches. If you see those open, you better clear out quickly. And finally, the rockets. These can travel quite a distance, so stay sharp. On the other hand, it can't fire them from too close. But then again, there are those flamethrowers. It can also use its legs as weapons against any infantry on the ground.
Ouch.
But remember, Peace Walker technically isn't complete. With just the reptile pod, it can only perform relatively simple maneuvers. They've got certain quirks, too. What's more, look carefully and you should be able to predict which attack is coming next. Snake, you have to stop Peace Walker from launching that nuke.
Calm down. What do I need to do?
To tell you the truth, I don't really know. The mammal pod has probably enhanced both its thought patterns and mobility. The S-mines, rockets, flamethrowers, they're all the same, but I don't know what else to say. You'll just have to stay sharp and watch for how it behaves before each of the attacks.
I'll give it a shot. There's no time for anything else.
Sorry I can't be more helpful. You can do it, Snake.
Okay, but why does Peace Walker need to walk on two legs? I'd think treads would be good enough.
You'd be wrong. As you know, the terrain in Central America is rugged and complex, especially along the Caribbean coast of Costa Rica. You've got jungles, swamps, mountains, and the only way to get across all that terrain, no matter how rugged, is on legs.
Yeah, but wouldn't it be tough to cross a swamp, even on legs?
It wasn't easy, that's for sure. The reason we picked Costa Rica as a proving ground is because we can test it on every type of terrain.
This Peace Walker project the CIA's talking about. You believed in it, huh?
Yeah, I believed. Actually, maybe I just wanted to believe.
What do you mean?
Here's how Coldman explained it. Peace Walker's a weapon for peace. One to ensure true nuclear deterrence. It'd be the anchor to bring stability to Central America. He told me, the nuclear weapon system you've built will never be used. It will forever stand vigil as an icon of peace. And to achieve that, he needed my bipedal locomotion technology. To be honest, I was flattered.
Flattered?
Wouldn't you be? My colleagues in the scientific community have never taken me seriously. They told me bipedal locomotion was a pipe dream, that it'd never amount to anything. It was the first time anybody recognized my work. How could I not be happy? And besides, it was my chance to surpass my father. To create nukes for peace. Or so I thought anyway.
But Coldman's really going through with it.
Yeah. Makes perfect sense, really. No one would give the project any notice unless they could prove that an unmanned system is capable of launching a nuke.
Why is Coldman going to launch a nuke? If all he wants to do is prove the AI retaliation system works, he doesn't need to put a live warhead on it.
I agree. He could demonstrate the system by launching the missile alone, without a warhead. I asked him the same thing at first. He said there was no point in using a dummy missile. That it'd take an actual nuclear launch to deter potential enemies. Launching the real deal gives him a leg up in negotiations with Langley. That's what he's really after. I based the bipedal locomotion technology used in Peace Walker on Soviet research. Actually, I'll be honest with you. I stole most of the basic ideas behind it.
Soviet? Bipedal? You mean Granin?
You know him?
Yeah. I met him at his lab in Russia. He helped me out a little bit.
You met him? What were you?
He was head of the Granin Design Bureau, creator of countless Soviet weapons.
I'd hit a wall in my research at the time. Granin's ideas solved nearly all my problems.
There's nothing unusual about using somebody else's work to further your own research, is there?
As long as you cite it, yeah. But I wasn't in a position to do that. His research was classified at the highest level. Soviet research, no less.
So, you used it without telling anybody?
I wanted to show up my colleagues for once. The ones who never took me seriously. But you reap what you sow. Coldman seized on that vulnerability. Told me if I quit the project, he'd expose my larceny.
He had you by the balls, Doc. How'd you get your hands on Granin's research?
That was also Coldman. He used his agency contacts to get a hold of it.
Giving you stolen information, then using it to blackmail you. Damn.
I knew it was Granin's work the minute I saw it. See, I'd been corresponding with him for a while.
Corresponding?
Letters. Between scientists doing the same kind of research. He always complained that nobody understood his ideas on bipedal locomotion.
Ah, so you're the American friend he was talking about.
Obviously, he didn't write a word about the technology in his letters. Except for one time. If by chance anything should happen to me, I entrust my research to you. Better that than handing it over to these ignorant so-called scientists.
Sounds like him, all right.
Then one day, his papers actually came. It wasn't hard for me to imagine what had happened to him. I felt it was my duty to carry on his work after him. And also...
What?
I thought maybe combining his technology with mine could be a way to bring East and West together, like the docking of Apollo and Soyuz.
It'll never make the history books, and it's still not a reason to plagiarize.
You're right. You're absolutely right. I never had the courage to tell the truth, that's all. I always looked for excuses to cover it up.
Until now.
Huh?
You told me everything. You're no longer a coward.
Metal Gear.
Huh? What about it?
You mumbled that when I first explained about Peace Walker. I'm curious what it meant.
Exactly what it says. Metal Gear. Granin coined the term.
Granin did?
He thought of his technology as the metal gear that meshes infantry with artillery.
I like the sound of that. Metal Gear. It's got a nice ring to it. Better than an outright lie like Peace Walker, anyway.
Those papers the CIA gave you, was there any data on the Shagohod in there?
Shagohod?
A nuclear tank that launches IRBMs. It competed against Granin's system for approval.
Oh, the thing with the rockets. Designed by a guy named Sokolov, right?
What's so funny?
No, I was just remembering some of the commentary Granin added to the Shagohod papers. You should have seen the way he badmouthed it. It was too conservative, too ugly.
I can imagine.
He was so angry when he wrote that, he smeared up the ink. And you know how shoddy the paper is over there to begin with.
I'll bet. That's Granin, all right.
Imagine accelerating the launcher itself to 300 miles an hour to extend the range of an IRBM. As stupid as it sounds, it's a hell of a concept. Who but the Soviets would think of using a tank as the first stage of a rocket? I actually took a cue from the Shagohod when I developed the Pupa.
That hovercraft thing? You stole that one too?
Give me a little credit. I only borrowed the concept. The technology is original. As it turned out, hover technology wasn't enough to handle all the terrain in Central America. It relied too much on brute force.
But the Shagohod was a major threat. That thing could corner like you wouldn't believe. Built pretty tough, too.
You sure know a lot about it.
It almost did me in. I couldn't forget it if I tried.
Did you in? So you were the one who took it down. Wow! You really are amazing.
I didn't do it alone.
No, seriously, thank you. We might not be here today if they'd begun mass-producing that thing. Then again, they're hard at work now miniaturizing nuclear warheads. Pretty soon they won't even need an accelerated launcher like the Shagahad.
Great. That means they're that much closer to being able to launch from anywhere in the world. Chico called Peace Walker the Basilisco.
Basilisco? Oh, right, Spanish. That's funny. I once used the codename Basilisk for the Peace Walker platform myself.
What for?
The class of lizards called basilisks can walk atop any type of terrain. In a pinch, they can even stand up on two legs and run across water. Perfect name for a system that can walk anywhere in Central America, right? Plus, there are the legends.
What legends?
The basilisks of legend were highly venomous creatures. There's a story told by the ancient Romans. A knight slew a basilisk by piercing it with his spear. The creature's poison seeped up the spear and killed both horse and rider. Remind you of anything, Snake?
Nuclear deterrence.
Bingo. Kill it and you die along with it. Your hands are bound. I wanted Peace Walker to be like that.
You should know that people aren't that rational. Sometimes people do things that don't make sense, even when they know they're going to die. Or maybe it's because of that.
Maybe you're right. But that's exactly what I don't understand. Peace Walker contains an assembly of two AI pods. One of them is the mammal pod, which Dr. Strangelove developed. The other's the reptile pod, which is mine.
What's the difference?
The reptile pod is the attitude control AI. If it's destroyed, Peace Walker grinds to a halt. The mammal pod is responsible for making the decisions regarding nuclear retaliation, reflex, and thought. One is the brainstem and cerebellum, the other the cerebrum.
So, the one that houses the will of the boss
would be the mammal pod. We call it the reptile pod for a reason. The parts of our brains that govern basic life and reflex developed ages ago, when our ancestors were still reptiles.
We were reptiles?
Well, only at one stage of our evolution. The theory was proposed by the neuroscientist Paul MacLean.
Huh.
The reptile brain corresponds to the brainstem and basal ganglia in our brain. The reptile pod also incorporates the functions of the cerebellum.
So basically, it's the deep parts of the brain.
Dr. Strangelove came up with the name. The part of our brain that developed after we became mammals is responsible for high-level brain functions.
Such as?
Such as intelligence, judgment, even love.
That's high level, all right.
Location-wise, the mammal brain is on the outside of the reptile brain. The cerebral cortex is part of it. I think it's very telling that Dr. Strangelove named her pod Mammal. It's almost like she wants it to be more than just an advanced AI. What she really wants is for it to have a mind of its own. Snake, how much do you know about the U.S. Homeland Air Defense Network?
I don't know much about what goes on up in the sky. What I do know is that NORAD tracks Santa Claus on its radar.
Nice one. I didn't know you were a comedian, too.
Huh? No, I'm serious. It's true, NORAD tracks his... Listen to me. Every December they set up a hotline and...
Okay, I get it.
He's real, I tell you. He used to bring me presents and...
Okay, Snakey. As all good little boys know, keeping tabs on Santa Claus is a very important job for NORAD. But they also have another mission, the one they were created for. And the system they set up for that has been hijacked by Coldman.
You mean Peace Walker's fake data transmissions?
NORAD's early warning system is composed of DSP satellite-mounted infrared sensors and an array of surveillance radar stations across North America. The network sends out warnings to NORAD at Cheyenne Mountain, where the data undergoes human evaluation. Peace Walker, on the other hand, has to make its retaliation decisions autonomously. So it's set up to automatically receive the same data as NORAD through covert channels. Those channels were also used on the test platform to telemeter the AI's decision-making. Peace Walker reversed the system to transmit a fake warning about incoming nuclear missiles outside the usual exercise schedule. I mean, the system could have used better safeguarding. Nobody's going to argue with that. But cracking the AI? That seemed unimaginable. And you can see what happened.
Hey, Doc, what was that you were smoking in the lab? It looked like a cigarette, but it wasn't lit.
Oh, it's an electronic cigarette. I designed it myself. Pretty neat, huh?
Electronic cigarette.
Yep, a liquid in the filter that turns into vapor, and you inhale the microparticles.
So that was vapor.
I'd actually rather be smoking normal cigarettes, but not in that room. The smoke would wreck the precision equipment in there, ruin all its wiring. But the vapor is just steam. It doesn't contain tar or anything like that. So I can smoke it in the lab with no worries.
Nice.
Want to try one?
Nah, I'll stick with cigars.
Yeah, but...
I don't like imitations. The real thing's always better.
Okay. But you know, sooner or later, smoking's going to become very unfashionable across the world. It hurts you and those around you. Electronic cigarettes might not seem so bad then.
Yeah, when that happens, I'll think about it. You said your dad was involved in the Manhattan Project, right?
Yeah?
And you think that's why you can't walk?
I don't know. Actually, you know, probably not. So far, nobody's found evidence that exposure to radiation in parents causes genetic defects in children, except for those exposed in the womb. Epidemiologically speaking, anyway.
That's the conclusion of the Atomic Bomb Casualty Commission.
Right. The ABCC commenced its study immediately after the war, and it's still ongoing.
Even now, 30 years later.
The effects of radiation exposure last a long time. I'm guessing it'll be another 10 years before we get a real verdict on whether it affects genes. Granted, it's the most massive study anybody's ever done. But that's really all it is, a study. The ABCC brought in bomb victims and ran tests on them, but they didn't treat them.
Really? Them too, huh?
At any rate, that's what my father made me believe when I was growing up.
Maybe it was tough for your dad to explain. Ever think of that?
Yeah, maybe. But this is my problem now, Snake. I have to face the nukes head on, whether I like it or not. My creations are being used for the wrong purposes. The onus is on me to stop it somehow. Help me, Snake. Hey, as long as I'm here at Mother Base, why not assign me to the R&D team? You could use a guy like me.
Glad to have you on board. I'm sure Kaz is, too.
Once I've got the necessary materials and design specs together, I should be able to start building you that bipedal weapon platform. Nothing would make me happier than for my research to help put a stop to Peace Walker.
So this Dr. Strangelove was at NASA?
Yeah. Well, actually, Strangelove left for DARPA not long after I joined.
And then the two of you ended up back together doing research in Costa Rica.
Not exactly together. We coordinated on a few things, but the research projects themselves were separate from each other. We had it worked out so that Dr. Strangelove handled the mammal pod, Peace Walker's cerebrum, while I did the rest.
That letter, something to do with your research?
Huh? No, it's yeah, it's a report. Research findings.
Research findings? Anything in there we could use against Peace Walker?
Nothing. Nothing at all. Just don't read it, okay? Promise me you won't? Did you, give that letter to Dr. Strangelove?
No.
Why not? I gave it to you for a reason. It's highly important information.
Sorry. I didn't exactly have an opportunity to play postman.
Well, next time you see her, you make sure she gets it.
Oh, yeah, sure. Better for you if she doesn't.
Snake!
What?
Tell me you didn't read the letter.
No.
You did!
I mean, you never know what kind of information could affect the outcome of an operation, right? So
you read the letter, after I specifically told you not to.
What do you expect people to do when you tell them not to read something?
I thought I knew you, Snake. I thought I could trust you. But now I see I was wrong.
Look, I'm sorry, but I just don't get what you see in her.
Well, I wouldn't expect a barbarian who opens other people's private correspondence to understand.
Fine then. Deliver it yourself.
Huh? What? No way. I could never...
You've got a long way to go, Huey.
You ever see the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey?
Can't say I have.
Fantastic flick. The outer space special effects are incredible enough, but the depiction of AI is what really stands out.
There's an AI?
Yeah, a spacecraft pilot AI called Hal. It plays a major role in the story. Dr. Strangelove loves it too. Did I ever tell you about the time we first met up in Costa Rica?
No.
You know how she hates men, right? So we hadn't seen each other since NASA, and we just weren't hitting it off. Until we started talking about Hal. And then she started going off. The way she talked about it was so intellectual. The way she analyzed every plot detail, how passionate she was about the AI. It made me fall for her all over again. You know what? Here's to Hal for bringing her and me closer together. You should ask her about 2001 too. Then you'll understand just how amazing she is.
Amazing, huh?
Hal. Now there's a good name. The pupa increases its mobility by using compressed air to hover its rear section. It moves by means of its treads and boosters. Those boosters also provide the propulsion needed for high-speed movement.
So if I take out the boosters, it won't be able to charge.
Right. I suppose you could also avoid its attacks by lying down beneath it. The pupa is also equipped with electrical shock units. It uses these devices, they look like lightning rods, to direct discharge.
Guess I should pull the plug on those too.
Good idea. What else? Well, as with all AI machines, you can incapacitate the entire unit by taking out the AI itself. If you can get the hatch open and climb inside, you can pull out the memory boards. Lights out AI. We may be able to use those boards for ourselves. If you can, try and get inside the AI pod and have a crack at it. You won't be able to do that until you've damaged it enough to stop it from moving first.
Got it. Usual tactics first, then.
Being an unmanned vehicle, the Chrysalis can perform extreme G-force maneuvers that standard aircraft can't. It'll be difficult to counterattack once it's coming at you. I should mention that it's also equipped with a railgun.
A what?
A weapon that fires rounds using electromagnetic force in lieu of gunpowder.
Wait, an electric weapon?
Not exactly. The rounds themselves are conventional shells. It creates force by running an electric current through a magnetic field. Fleming's left-hand rule. Didn't they teach you that at school?
Not at mine.
Oh. Anyway, as the railgun uses electromagnetic force, it needs to charge before firing. Once you see it starting to charge, take immediate evasive action. Also, as with the pupa, destroying the AI will put the unit out of commission. Do enough damage and it'll have to land. Use that opportunity to get in the AI pod. Wait too long and it'll start to repair itself. Be sure to shoot the hatch the moment it lands.
I think I can handle that.
During development, I had trouble figuring out how to handle the cocoon's excess heat. I'm embarrassed to admit it, but the radiators are most likely its weakest points. They're not heavily armored, as heat wasn't dissipating properly.
Where are they?
There are multiple radiators on the upper and lower sections. Just look for the exhaust fumes. The only thing is, the upper radiators typically aren't exposed. You should probably shoot for the lower ones first. You could move under its body to access the lower ones, but the cocoon is capable of vertical movement, so be careful not to get crushed. Watch out for missiles and hedgehogs, too.
Hedgehogs? Anti-submarine multiple spigot mortars?
I adapted the technology for use as a surface weapon. Both the missiles and hedgehogs take time to load, though. It can't fire a hedgehog until the lamp comes on. As for the missiles, watch for the way the hatches move.
That'll be my chance to get close.
When the hatches open, out come the missiles.